Question 1. From the perspective of HR strategy alignment, Ista Ramirez is an HVACR company's HR manager tasked with improving workforce planning. The company forecasts 30% increase in service demand next year, but has 15% turnover rate among field technicians annually. Considering strategic workforce planning principles, what should Ista Ramirez prioritize to ensure business goals are met? A. Focus solely on recruiting new technicians to cover the forecasted demand increase. B. Develop comprehensive plan including retention strategies, succession planning, and targeted recruitment. C. Delay workforce planning until after turnover data stabilizes next year. D. Outsource all field operations to third-party contractor to avoid hiring challenges. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Effective workforce planning aligns HR with business goals by balancing recruitment with retention and succession strategies. Simply recruiting new technicians, option A, ignores turnover causes and retention, risking repeated shortages. Delaying planning, C, is reactive and undermines proactive management. Outsourcing, D, may reduce control and could conflict with company culture and quality standards. According to our guidelines and strategic HR management principles, a comprehensive workforce plan anticipates future needs, integrates retention efforts to reduce turnover, and prepares internal candidates for key roles. This holistic approach mitigates risks, optimizes talent supply, and supports sustained business growth. Question 2. Considering legal and ethical compliance, ISLE manages HVACR technicians with disabilities. A technician requests a modification to his work schedule due to documented medical condition. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA weighs ISLE's best course of action. A. Deny the request as it will disrupt business operations significantly. B. Automatically approve the request without any review. C. Engage in an interactive process to determine reasonable accommodations that do not impose undue hardship. D. Refer the employee to short-term disability benefits and avoid making schedule changes. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The ADA requires employers to engage in an interactive process to find reasonable accommodations for employees with disabilities unless it causes undue hardship, significant difficulty, or expense. Denying outright A. Risks legal violations. Approving without review B. May not always be feasible. Referring to disability benefits D. Avoids the employer's duty under ADA. The EOC enforces these provisions, emphasizing collaboration between employer and employee to identify accommodations such as flexible hours or modified duties, balancing individual needs with business viability. This approach promotes compliance, inclusivity, and workforce retention. Question 3. In the context of record keeping and data privacy, Ista Johnson's HVACR company recently transitioned to cloud-based HR information system storing employee records. What critical compliance considerations should Ista Johnson prioritize to adhere to data privacy laws? A. Focus only on physical file security, as digital data is inherently safe. B. Implement robust access control to encryption and ensure compliance with applicable data protection regulations such as HIPAA or GDPR. So, allow all HR staff unrestricted access to promote efficiency. D. Regularly back up data but ignore employee consent for data storage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Data privacy laws require protecting employee personal information through technical and administrative safeguards, including encryption, access restrictions, and monitoring. HIPAA applies if health data is annulled. GDPR if dealing with EU residents, and other local laws may apply. Physical security alone A. is insufficient for digital records. Unrestricted access C. increases risk of data breaches and violates principle of least privilege. Ignoring employee consent D. breaches privacy rights. Compliance with laws ensures confidentiality, prevents costly breaches, and maintains employee trust. Organizations should document policies and conduct regular audits as per NIST or ISO standards. Question 4. Based on the information about recruitment and selection, Issa Patel is interviewing HVACR technician candidates for a critical project. She plans to use behavioral interviewing techniques. Which of the following best describes the advantage of behavioral interviews in this context? A. They predict future job performance based on past behavior and experiences. B. They focus exclusively on hypothetical scenarios unrelated to the job. C. They rely heavily on gut feelings and interviewer intuition. D. They avoid any structured format to keep interviews informal. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Behavioral interviewing is based on the principle that past behavior is the best predictor of future performance. This method asks candidates to describe specific past experiences relevant to job tasks. It provides structured, evidence-based evaluation, minimizing bias and improving selection accuracy, is supported by HR best practices and validated by the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. Options B, C, and D contradict this structure and objectivity, reducing reliability and fairness. For HVACR roles requiring technical and problem-solving skills, behavioral interviews help assess relevant competencies accurately. Question 5. Given the circumstances of compensation management, Istacata discovers that its HVACR company's pay scales for technicians are significantly below the local market median. What are the likely consequences if this discrepancy is not addressed, and what should he do to align pay scales properly? A. Retain current pay scales. The market fluctuations will balance out soon. B. Increase wages indiscriminately for all employees regardless of performance. C. Conduct market salary survey and adjust pay scales competitively while maintaining internal equity. D. Freeze all salary increases to manage costs despite turnover. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Ignoring below-market wages leads to high turnover, difficulty attracting skilled talent, and reduced morale, harming operational effectiveness. Indiscriminate increases. B. Risk unfairness and budget strain. Freezing salaries. D. Exacerbates retention issues. Conducting a market salary survey helps benchmark pay against competitors, informing strategic adjustments that maintain internal equity and comply with FLSA regulations. Competitive, equitable pay scales support workforce stability, motivation, and business success as recommended by HRM and compensation best practices. Question 6. When evaluating the merits of disciplinary procedures, Istacata faces a situation where a technician repeatedly violates safety protocols despite prior warnings. According to best practices in employee relations, what is the most appropriate next step? A. Immediately terminate the technician without further documentation. B. Implement a progressive discipline approach including performance improvement plans, PIPs. C. Ignore the violations since the technician is valuable to the team. D. Transfer the technician to a different department without addressing the issue. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Progressive discipline, including warnings and PIPs, provides fair opportunities for improvement and documents efforts to correct behavior, supporting legal defensibility. Immediate termination A. Without documentation risks wrongful termination claims. Ignoring C. Jeopardizes safety and liability compliance with OSHA. Transferring D. May shift risk without resolution. OSHA requires employers to enforce safety rigorously. Proper documentation of disciplinary steps aligns with regulatory and ethical standards, protects the organization, and encourages employee accountability. Question 7. Illustrated by an HVACR firm's training needs analysis is Gomez identifies significant skill gaps in new technicians regarding HEPA refrigerant handling certification. What should be is Gomez's next step to effectively address this gap while maintaining regulatory compliance? A. Ignore the gaps since technicians can learn on the job. B. Implement mandatory training and certification programs aligned with HEPA Section 608 regulations. C. Allow only senior technicians to handle refrigerants regardless of certification. D. Outsource refrigerant handling to an external contractor without certification requirements. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. HEPA Section 608 mandates proper certification for refrigerant handling to prevent environmental harm and ensure safety. Ignoring skill gaps risks regulatory penalties and safety incidents. Restricting only senior technicians C. without certification violates HEPA rules. Outsourcing D. does not exempt the company from compliance oversight. Implementing mandatory training and certification ensures legal compliance, technician competence, and environmental responsibility. OSHA also requires safe handling training, reinforcing the importance of this approach in HVACR workforce development. Question 8. With respect to conflict resolution in an HVACR company, Mr. Kim notices increasing disputes between field technicians and customer service representatives over service call scheduling. What conflict resolution method should he apply to resolve this issue sustainably? A. Ignore the conflict, hoping it resolves itself over time. B. Use mediation to facilitate communication and mutually agreeable solutions. C. Impose a top-down decision without input from either party. D. Separate the two teams physically to prevent interaction. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Mediation encourages open dialogue, fosters understanding, and helps parties collaboratively develop solutions, improving long-term relationships and productivity consistent with best HR practices and conflict resolution models. E. G. Thomas Gilman conflict mode instrument. Ignoring conflict. A. Typically escalates issues. Top-down decisions. C. Risk resentment and non-compliance. Physical separate. D. May reduce cooperation and degrade service quality. Effective mediation aligns with labor relations standards and promotes a positive workplace culture. Question 9. Taking into account leadership and critical thinking, is Davis implementing a new HVAC diagnostic technology that changes field technicians' workflows? How should she manage this change to minimize resistance and ensure successful adoption? A. Announce the change abruptly without consultation to speed up implementation. B. Communicate transparently, involve technicians in planning, provide training and support during transition. C. Ignore feedback and enforce strict adherence from day one. D. Postpone training until after performance issues arise. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Change management best practices recommend clear communication, involvement, and support to reduce resistance as outlined by HRConquer and COTUP models. Abrupt changes, A. Or ignoring feedback. C. Breed resistance and reduce effectiveness. Postponing training. D. Causes frustration and errors. Engaging employees helps build ownership, enhances skill development, and aligns new technology with practical workflow. This approach mitigates risk and drives successful, sustainable change in HVACR operations. Question 10. When faced with the ethical dilemma of balancing employee confidentiality with legal reporting obligations, Esther O'Neill discovers an employee discloses workplace harassment confidentially. What should Esther O'Neill do in accordance with ethical HR management and legal guidelines? A. Maintain absolute confidentiality and take no further action. B. Immediately report the issue to relevant authorities and company leadership while protecting employee privacy as much as possible. C. Discuss the matter openly with all staff to increase transparency. D. Ignore the disclosure to avoid conflict. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. HR professionals must balance confidentiality with legal obligations to investigate and address harassment under laws such as Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. Absolute confidentiality. A. May prevent necessary action and violate legal duties. Public discussion. C. Breaches privacy and risks retaliation. Ignoring. D. Neglects ethical and legal responsibilities. Proper handling involves discreetly reporting and investigating while safeguarding privacy, fostering a safe, compliant workplace. HRM Code of Ethics emphasizes this dual responsibility. Question 11. While examining recruitment and selection processes, Harrison is reviewing candidate evaluation methods for HVACR technician roles. She wants to ensure fairness and legal compliance while accurately assessing skills. Which approach best supports this goal? A. Rely solely on informal interviews and gut feelings about candidates. B. Use only written tests without any practical or behavioral assessments. C. Combine structured behavioral interviews, validated skill assessments, and background checks. D. Make hiring decisions based on candidate referrals alone. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Structured behavioral interviews combined with validated skill assessments provide objective, legally defensible evaluation, reducing bias and improving predictive validity per EOP. Guidance and HR best practices, relying on gut feelings. A. Risks discrimination and poor hires. Written tests alone. B. May not fully capture technical competencies. Referral-based hiring. D. Can introduce bias and diversity. Using multiple standardized evaluation methods aligns with principles of fairness, compliance with EO laws, and effective talent selection. Question 12. From a practical standpoint, Mr. Evans is developing a new employee handbook for his HVACR company to comply with labor laws and best practices. What should he ensure the handbook includes? A. Detailed personal opinions of management on employee behavior. B. Vague policies that leave room for flexible interpretation. C. Clear policies on workplace conduct, harassment, leave, discipline, and safety compliant with OSHA and FLA. D. No policies to keep things informal and avoid legal complications. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is actually C. Clear, comprehensive policies protect both employer and employee by setting expectations and ensuring legal compliance. OSHA requires safety policies, FLA mandates leave rights, and harassment policies align with EOC guidelines. Vague policies, B. Create confusion and risk inconsistent enforcement. Personal opinions, they lack professionalism and can lead to legal issues. No policies, D. Leave the company vulnerable to lawsuits and operational chaos. A well-crafted handbook is a foundational HR tool. Question 13. Given the circumstances of incentive programs, Alvarez is designing a performance-based bonus system for HVACR technicians. What is essential to ensure the program is effective, fair, and legally compliant? A. Set bonuses arbitrarily without clear performance metrics. B. Base bonuses solely on seniority rather than performance. C. Establish clear, measurable performance criteria linked to business goals and communicate transparently to employees. D. Exclude part-time and temporary employees without explaining why. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Incentive programs must be tied to clear, measurable criteria to motivate employees and avoid claims of unfair treatment or discrimination. Tittle-omine arbitrary bonuses, A. Breed resentment. Seniority-based bonuses, B. May not drive performance improvement. Excluding employee groups, D. Without rationale risks discrimination claims. Transparent communication and alignment with company objectives. Ensure motivation, fairness, and compliance with FLSA and equal pay laws. Question 14. Under the assumption that a union is forming within an HVACR company is to sing, the HR manager must understand his legal obligations. Which of the following best describes his responsibilities during the union organizing period under the National Labor Relations Act era? Threaten employees with termination if they support the union. B. Allow employees to freely exercise their rights to organize and refrain from any unfair labor practice. C. Promise benefits only to non-union employees to discourage unionization. D. Interfere with union elections by controlling polling places. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Under the ARA, employers must not interfere with employees' rights to organize or engage in union activities. Threats A. Promises to non-union workers. C. An election interference. D. Unfair labor practices and illegal. Compliance preserves good faith relations and avoids costly legal actions. HR must provide factual information but cannot coerce or manipulate employees regarding union matters. Question 15. When analyzing OSHA compliance specific to HVACR field operations, ISTA White observes several technicians handling refrigerants without proper personal protective equipment (PPE). What immediate action should ISTA White take to ensure safety and regulatory compliance? A. Allow technicians to continue working since they have experience. B. Provide immediate training on proper PPE use and enforce strict PPE policies documenting compliance as per OSHA standards. C. Ignore the issue unless an accident occurs. D. Require technicians to sign waivers releasing the company from liability. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The correct answer is B. OSHA mandates EPE to prevent injuries and exposure to hazardous substances like refrigerants. Ignoring C or relying on experience A disregards safety regulations and legal liability. Waivers D do not exempt employers from OSHA requirements. Immediate training and enforcement with documentation protect workers, ensure compliance, and reduce risk of citations and accidents. Question 16. With respect to FLA compliance, Garcia manages HVACR employees with varying lengths of service. An employee requests intermittent leave to manage a serious health condition. What is Garcia's obligation under the Family and Medical Leave Act? A. Deny the request because intermittent leave disrupts business operations. B. Prove intermittent leave if the employee is eligible and provide job protection during the leave period. C. Require the employee to take full continuous leave instead. D. Ignore the request and mark the absence as unexcused. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. FLA requires employers to grant eligible employees up to 12 weeks of unpaid, job-protected leave, including intermittent leave when medically necessary. Denying A. Forcing continuous leave. C. Or ignoring requests. D. Violate FLA regulations and risk penalties. Employers must engage in good faith, require proper certification, and maintain confidentiality per DOL guidelines. Question 17. Through careful analysis of compensation and benefits, Mr. Roberts notices a disparity in TOE accrual rates between union and non-union HVACR employees. Which of the following best addresses this disparity while ensuring compliance? A. Reduce TOE accrual for non-union employees to match the union rate immediately. B. Ignore the disparity to avoid union conflict. C. Review collective bargaining agreements and company policies to ensure TOE accruals meet contractual and legal obligations, communicating transparently with all employees. D. Offer bonuses to non-union employees instead of TOE. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. TOE disparities often arise from negotiated union contracts. Employers must honor union agreements and ensure non-union policies comply with labor laws such as the Fair Labor Standards Act. Immediate unilateral reductions risk morale and legal challenges. Ignoring B. Ignores potential grievances. Offering bonuses. D. Does not substitute legally mandated TOE. Transparent communication and policy review promote fairness and compliance. Question 18. Based on the evidence from employee relations is Torres encounters a grievance filed by HVACR technicians claiming a consistent enforcement of safety policies. What is the most appropriate HR response? A. Dismiss the grievance without investigation. B. Conduct a thorough, impartial investigation, review policy enforcement records, and communicate findings and corrective actions. C. Side with management immediately to avoid conflict. D. Ask employees to handle grievances informally without HR involvement. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Proper grievance handling involves fair investigation, documentation, and corrective action consistent with labor relations best practices and OSHA requirements. Dismissing A. Siding with management prematurely. C. Or avoiding HR involvement. D. Undermines trust, violates due process, and increases risk of disputes escalating to legal claims. Fair grievance procedures improve work, climate, and legal compliance. Question 19. Considering leadership and critical thinking, Mr. Morgan must develop a succession plan for key HVACR field supervisors. What factors should he prioritize to create an effective plan? A. Promote employees based solely on tenure. B. Identify high potential candidates, assess skill gaps, and provide targeted development aligned with future business needs. C. Wait until a vacancy occurs before planning. D. Rely on external hires exclusively for supervisor roles. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The correct answer is B. Effective succession planning is proactive, focuses on developing internal talent based on competency gaps and strategic business direction as recommended by HRM and succession planning frameworks. Tenure alone A. does not guarantee leadership readiness. Waiting for vacancies C. is reactive and risky. Exclusive external hiring D. can be costly and disrupt culture. A strategic approach ensures leadership continuity and operational stability. Question 20. In terms of confidentiality and ethics, Isabel receives sensitive health information from an HVACR employee requesting accommodation. Which of the following best describes Isabel's ethical and legal responsibilities? A. Share the information freely with all supervisors. B. Protect the employee's privacy, disclose information only to those directly involved on need-to-know basis, and store records securely. C. Refuse to accept any health information to avoid liability. D. Publicly discuss the accommodation to educate other employees. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. The correct answer is B. HIPAA and ADA require maintaining strict confidentiality of medical information. Unauthorized disclosure AD violates laws and ethical standards, risking legal action and loss of trust. Refusing information C. Prevents lawful accommodations. Properly handling sensitive information protects employee rights, complies with legal standards, and fosters an ethical workplace culture. Question 21. In light of recent developments in workforce planning, Mr. Bennett is analyzing labor shortages across multiple service regions of his HVACR company. He finds that technician turnover is highest in rural areas where demand is surging. To address the shortage effectively while aligning with strategic HR practices, what should Mr. Bennett prioritize? A. Relocate urban-based technicians to rural areas without compensation. B. Focus recruitment efforts only on local schools and ignore broader talent pools. C. Implement targeted sourcing strategies, e.g., signing bonuses, relocation assistance, remote scheduling, and partner with regional training centers. D. Suspend service in rural areas until workforce stabilizes. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Strategic workforce planning calls for proactive solutions tailored to workforce trends. In this case, targeted sourcing, option C, such as incentives and training partnerships, directly addresses technician shortages while supporting long-term staffing objectives. Relocation without compensation A. Increases turnover risk. Limiting sourcing scope B. Restricts talent pipeline. Suspending service D. Harms and customer base. According to HRM's workforce planning framework, leveraging both recruitment innovation and local training partnerships ensures alignment with business goals and sustainability. Question 22. Among the various onboarding practices Connors is reviewing her HVACR firm's new hire orientation program. New technicians have reported confusion about job expectations, safety procedures, and benefits. What change should Connors implement to improve the onboarding experience and reduce early turnover? A. Provide generic company video without role-specific training. B. Delegate onboarding to field supervisors without oversight. C. Develop structured, multi-day onboarding program including safety, job-specific tasks, benefits education, and mentorship. D. Shorten onboarding to 1 hour to get new hires working faster. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. A structured onboarding program. C. Increases retention, productivity, and compliance. Research shows that thorough onboarding reduces turnover by clarifying expectations and fostering early engagement. OSHA recommends that safety protocols be introduced during orientation. Short, generic A. Supervisor only. B. Or rush. D. Approaches compromise clarity and compliance. HRM guidelines encourage structured onboarding covering job duties, policies, safety training, and benefits tailored to the role, including mentorship support, smoother integration into field teams. Question 23. The central argument for performance management in HVACR firms is that continuous feedback drives employee development. Yoon, an HR manager, wants to replace her company's annual review process with a more modern approach. What change is most likely to improve performance outcomes and engagement? A. Retain annual reviews but eliminate manager involvement. B. Focus solely on disciplinary records instead of performance discussions. C. Introduce regular informal check-ins, goal-setting meetings, and coaching aligned with technician KPIs. D. Replace reviews with self-evaluations only. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Modern performance management emphasizes ongoing feedback, clear goals, and coaching. Regular check-ins aligned with KPIs foster real-time improvement, especially in HVAC roles where customer satisfaction and technical precision are key. Annual reviews alone A. Lack timeliness, ignoring development in favor of discipline. B. Creates disengagement. Self-evaluation without manager input. D. Lacks objectivity and guidance. Research by Gallup and HRM supports a continuous feedback model as a driver of high performance and employee retention. Question 24. By evaluating ethical considerations in candidate screening, Mr. Lang receives a background check report that includes an applicant's juvenile offense from over a decade ago unrelated to HVACR work. Which response best aligns with EOC guidance and fair hiring practices? A. Reject the candidate immediately based on any criminal history. B. Share the background report with the entire hiring committee for discussion. C. Assess whether the offense is job-related. recent and consistent with business necessity before making decision. D. Use the record as tiebreaker between equally qualified candidates. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The EOC's guidance on the use of criminal background checks emphasizes that employers must assess the nature, time, and relevance of offenses to the job, known as the green factors. Blanket rejection may constitute disparate impact discrimination. Broad disclosure B. Violates confidentiality, using it arbitrarily as tiebreaker. D. May still violate Title Roman protections. Targeted individual assessment C. Aligns with EOC standards and promotes ethical, lawful hiring. Question 25. When presented with a disciplinary challenge, Mr. Ortega notices that several HVACR technicians are consistently late, but only one was formally disciplined. The disciplined employee has filed a complaint alleging unfair treatment. What is Mr. Ortega's best next step to ensure consistent and compliant disciplinary practices? A. Defend the disciplinary action as justified without reviewing the broader context. B. Retroactively discipline the other late employees to maintain consistency. C. Review attendance records, ensure disciplinary consistency, and update policies to prevent perceived bias. D. Reprimand the complaining employee for challenging HR decisions. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Consistent enforcement is essential to prevent discrimination claims under Title Oman and to maintain workplace fairness. Reviewing records and policies. C. Allows HR to identify and address inconsistency while protecting the integrity of disciplinary systems. Defending without context. A. Risks bias claims. Retroactive discipline. B. Is not legally or ethically sound. Reprimanding a complainant. D. Viewed as retaliation, a violation of EOC retaliation provisions. A transparent, data-based review supports fair and legally compliant HR practices. Question 26. Through the lens of employee engagement, is Rivers notices rising dissatisfaction among HVACR service technicians regarding career advancement opportunities. Despite competitive wages, exit interviews cite lack of growth as a top reason for leaving. What initiative should she implement to address this retention issue effectively? A. Focus only on pay increases rather than career development programs. B. Offer promotions solely based on tenure regardless of performance. C. Develop transparent career pathing programs with defined skills ladders and mentoring for upward mobility. D. Implement mandatory overtime to compensate for turnover. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Career pathing gives employees a clear vision for growth, which significantly enhances retention and engagement. According to HRM and Gallup, lack of advancement is a primary cause of voluntary turnover, especially in technical fields. Tenure-only promotions, B, can lead to role mismatches. Pay increases alone, A, are not enough without perceived opportunity. Over time, D, increases burnout. A structured paying strategy, C, including mentorship and training aligned to skill ladders, empowers technicians to see long-term value in staying. Question 27. From a historical standpoint, Mr. Delaney's HVACR firm has lacked formal training for new service managers. As the business scales, he sees inconsistent leadership among crews, leading to compliance and morale issues. Which approach best addresses these concerns within training and development framework? A. Let managers learn organically through trial and error. B. Focus training solely on technical HVACR systems, excluding leadership skills. C. Implement structured development program focused on supervisory skills, compliance, and team management. D. Limit training to senior managers only to reduce cost. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Leadership development for frontline supervisors is critical to scaling field operations. According to HRM and the Center for Creative Leadership, untrained managers often create morale issues, legal risks, and turnover. Organic learning A is inconsistent. Technical knowledge B is insufficient for leadership. Restricting training D causes gaps in lower management. Structured programs C focusing on soft employment law and team dynamics produce competent, legally compliant leaders and reduce risk. Question 20. A detailed analysis of benefits administration reveals that Is Janssen's HVACR company offers inconsistent health insurance access for part-time and full-time staff. Several part-time technicians have raised equity concerns. What should Is Janssen do to ensure legal compliance and equity in benefits policy? A. Continue the current practice and require part-time staff to pay full premiums. B. Eliminate benefits for all part-time staff to simplify administration. C. Review HRConquer thresholds and company values to redesign benefits policies with consistent eligibility rules and transparent communication. D. Provide part-time benefits only in states that require it without informing other employees. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Benefits policy must align with HRConquer and applicable state laws. While federal law doesn't require benefits for part-timers, inconsistency can damage morale and lead to perceived discrimination. Uniform, clearly communicated policies. C. Reduce confusion and enhance fairness. Cutting benefits. B. Harms attraction and retention. Secretive implementation. D. Violates ethical standards. According HRM, transparent and inclusive benefits policies also enhance employer branding and workforce stability. Question 29. Upon closer examination of OSHA logs, Mr. Novak realizes his HVACR field staff have frequent heat-related incidents. He notes no formal training exists for extreme weather response. Which of the following actions should he prioritize to remain compliant and protect staff? A. Assume technicians know how to handle hot weather due to experience. B. Encourage hydration without offering any formal procedure. C. Establish a heat illness prevention plan, including training, hydration breaks, and shaded rest periods per OSHA's General Duty Clause. D. Only provide training after an incident has occurred. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA requires employers to provide a safe work environment under the General Duty Clause. This includes addressing known risks like heat exposure in field-based HVACR work. Option C aligns with OSHA's heat illness prevention campaign, which includes training, hydration, acclimatization, and emergency procedures. Relying on experience. A. Is unsafe. Informal encouragement. B. Without policy lacks enforceability. Reactive training. D. Violates proactive safety obligations. Documented training protects workers and reduces liability. Question 30. The prevailing attitude toward reference checks has shifted due to increased litigation risk. Is Mahoney hesitant to contact previous employers during HVACR technician hiring? What is the most effective and compliant way to gather reliable reference information? A. Skip reference checks entirely to avoid liability. B. Ask personal friends of the candidate instead of former employers. C. Use structured reference questions focused on job performance and obtain written consent from the candidate. D. Request character testimonials from social media profiles. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Reference checks remain a vital risk management tool in hiring, especially in roles with safety or compliance exposure like HVACR technicians. The key is conducting them more fully and consistently. HRM and ER guidelines. Employers must obtain candidate consent and limit questions to job-related factual topics. Skipping checks. A. Using personal friends. B. Or relying on social media. D. Door to bias or privacy violations. Structured, documented reference checks. C. Balance risk and due diligence.